Colonel Stuart Williamson, commander of the 354th Mission Support Group from Eielson Air Force Base. I'm going to start with the first question for you. So the Air Force recently released a quality of life scorecard, which was discussed earlier, for all the communities hosting Air Force bases around the country. Can you tell us a little about why quality of life for families is a focus for the Air Force in particular right now, and how might it impact basing decisions in the future?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So I'm not currently a strategic basing professional, but I did get a chance to work at Air Combat Command and did a little bit of work with the strategic basing team out there. So kind of in a nutshell, the way that process works for the Air Force is you have a new mission or an aircraft that you want to bed down at a location, and you first choose the criteria for what that mission needs to bed down at a particular location. Some of those things are easy to figure out, like how long does the runway have to be? How much hangar space do you need to have? And basically, based on that criteria, we select the enterprise, which is every base out there that could support the mission. We send a team to every one of those bases to do a site survey and look at the other things that are a little harder to determine. And those are the quality of life things for our airmen and their families. So that community needs to be able to support childcare, housing, dormitory space, medical care, exceptional family member care. So they take all of these site surveys for every possible base back to the strategic basing team. They look through those and they come up with what's the best location to support that mission. And if a location can't adequately house, care for, provide that quality of life for airmen and their families, then another location is going to be chosen. Because we're in the business of projecting fifth generation combat power, and it's very difficult for us to do that when I'm concerned about, well, I can't find a house for my family. My kids can't get into the schools. And I can't find the right medical care for my family member who's in the exceptional family member program. So I think it's a critical issue for us being able to do our mission as military members, that those quality of life issues are addressed. So, and I'll just say about, if I had to broadly characterize installations, I would say that they fall into three categories. You have traditional installations or traditional bases that everybody beds down and uses all the resources within that base. They're remote and isolated style bases, like Eielson is kind of. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have community-based installations where they can get most of the things that they need from a large city or downtown, and then you have hybrid installations in the center. Eielson, I believe, was designed as more of a remote and isolated installation, but when it comes right down to it, I can't provide all the things that our airmen and families need on the installation. So our fates and our ability to provide combat power are intertwined with you as the community to help make up for the things that I can't do on the installation. That's all I have. Any questions?
Well, we may come back for you. I may come up with some more. We'll see how the time goes. So Colonel Adam Lange, Deputy Commander for Sustainment for U.S. Army Alaska, Fort Wainwright, is our next victim. What are the special challenges in interior Alaska in particular when the Army looks at creating good quality of life for families stationed here?
All right, thanks, Jinnel. Hey, first, I'd just like to say on behalf of Major General Eifler, our brand new Commanding General, U.S. Army Alaska, I appreciate the opportunity to participate today. And I especially appreciate forums like this so that we can talk about these issues, but most importantly, the unrivaled support of the communities for our military installations across Alaska. I talk to new soldiers all the time at Fort Wainwright as part of the newcomers brief, and I highlight the fact that they enjoy more support here in this assignment in Alaska than they will anywhere else in their Army career when they go other places. So to your question about special challenges, certainly there are lots of special challenges with an assignment in interior Alaska for soldiers and families. There are for every assignment across the Army, but there's some that are unique to interior Alaska. But before I answer the question, I just want to highlight a couple key factors. So U.S. Army Alaska is split between two installations, Joint Base Emmendorf-Richardson down south and south central, and then Fort Wainwright here in the interior. About 12,000 soldiers split between those two installations. A little bit more up here at Fort Wainwright, but let's just say it's roughly equal. Every year, we lose a third of our force to, normal PCS attrition. In other words, they're going to move somewhere else in the military. They'll either get out of the military or they'll go to another assignment. And it's 3 years because as an overseas assignment, it's based on what we call a DRO. So you got a 3-year assignment here, and then you'll be moved on somewhere else. In some cases, people will be allowed to extend. And in the Army's Arctic strategy, that's one of the things that we're looking to change with the service is how do we retain people that especially do well up here, thrive and like it, so that we can build the kind of experience we need to kind of get after regaining Arctic proficiency, okay? But basically, by my math, 4,000 soldiers and families, probably a lot more family members based on what Tammy presented for the numbers, are leaving here every year. And then our most vulnerable population, as we see it, is the 4,000 that come in to replace them. We have 2 PCS seasons. The majority of them move in the summertime, and we have a smaller PCS season in the wintertime. But that's a daunting task to go anywhere in the military. It's especially daunting when you're coming here from, say, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Your immediate first indication from personal experience is you get a set of orders that says, hey, be prepared to prepare your POV to be able to withstand temperatures as low as -70. Now, that's a real shock to the system, especially for Lieutenant Colonel Lange in 2010, who was coming here from Hawaii. Try to explain to the Hawaii car dealership why you need an engine block heater, a battery pad heater, a tranny pan heater. They just look at you like you're crazy, right? So that's the first shock to the system. The next thing that those soldiers and family members are gonna do is they're gonna get on the internet and they're gonna Google Alaska, Fort Wainwright, US Army Alaska. And we have to be cognizant that there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet. There's a lot of dead-end links out there. So one of the challenges that we took on as a command was just information management, understanding, hey, this is going to be the normal response. Somebody gets orders, or they might have some trepidation about coming up here. Where are they going to get that information? So early on in our quality of life efforts, we went after, do we have good websites? Are we in the right social media spaces sharing relevant and accurate information to allow people to get up here? A second initiative of ours, and we've got tons of quality of life initiatives that Catherine's going to talk about that you could physically see and touch at Fort Wainwright, but I'm just hitting some of the ones that are a little less physical. The other was the financial burden associated with that. For all of you Alaskans that have been up here for a long time, you just accept the fact that you've got winter tires, right? And probably summer tires and different sets of wheels for both. And go back to the winterization of your vehicle. And you're used to buying, snow clothes for your kids to be able to go wait at the school bus stop, to be able to go to school at -20. That is not something that 99% of our population who come from places that don't look anything like Alaska or interior Alaska is something that they come armed with. Now, we get some from the northern states that, grew up in Minnesota or upstate New York or places like that, but a lot of them come from places where the states start with A, but it's Alabama. And again, that's a shock to the financial system. But the Army doesn't give you any extra money if you're moving to, Fort Bragg to Fort Hood, or if you're moving Fort Bragg to Alaska. So it's one of the things that we went after, and we've been able to get what's known, and you heard Senator Murkowski reference this, RAC AIP, so Remote Austere Conditions Assignment Incentive Pay. If you're a soldier, a single soldier down at Jayberry, you get an extra $1,000 upon arrival. If you're married down there, you get an extra $2,000. Up here in the interior, it's a little more costly. If you're a single soldier up here, you get $2,000, and if you're a soldier with a family, you get $4,000. That's pretty good to help defray those costs, right? So concerns, I mentioned 2. How do we give them good, accurate, relevant information? How do we resource them for when they arrive so that they're not in some sort of financial arrears as soon as they get here? And then the third one I would say that is a challenge is how do we establish connections for them? Because we've found in the Army that connections are absolutely important to build individual and family resilience on this assignment up here. And you guys are what help us do that, right? Through this tremendous community partnership that we have, whether it's through the schools, churches, just us coming through and being patrons of your businesses, how you interact with us and treat us and talk to us and bring us into the fold to eventually, what happens in most cases, make most of us fall in love with Alaska and then not want to leave.
We're good at that. So Catherine Miller is next up, Deputy to the Garrison Commander of U.S. Army Alaska. And I hope I'm not going to steal your thunder, but I did think it was pretty cool. We have a military spouse working in our office now. I was really excited, got her before she got here. And she mentioned that they got a stipend to buy winter clothes. And she was asking what should she buy in terms of boots and hats and all that stuff to stay warm. So I thought that was a great idea. So can you tell us about some of the projects you've been working on to improve quality of life, specifically at Fort Wainwright, but as they relate to military families?
Yes, I can. So again, I also want to reiterate the opportunity to speak on behalf of U.S. Army Garrison Alaska and Colonel Surrey, who is our new Garrison Commander in the audience today. And so I know we don't have a lot of time, but so I'm going to take, I think I have 4 minutes. My 4 minutes, I want to say that in fiscal year 20, we executed $214 million in quality of life products. And I know the question was centered around, projects I oversaw. These are things that our team did. And so my team is in the audience today. I would like the U.S. Army Garrison Alaska team to stand up wherever you are in the audience, and let's give them a round of applause. And the reason this is so significant, okay, is so we talked about the people strategy, right? Well, nested within the people strategy for USARAC and U.S. Army Garrison Alaska is care of our soldiers and families. And nobody cares more really this last year than our employees. So that is almost more than quadruple the budget that they normally would execute in a regular year of just taking care of roads and roofs and those type things, all expended on quality of life projects with no additional resources. They're still doing their day jobs, plus executing $214 million. So that's just really a significant amount of work, and they didn't miss a step. Oh, and by the way, add in a national pandemic, add in that we can get contractors up here, and we had supply chain distribution issues. And so when you think about it, it is very, very significant, the amount of work that this team did, and I did not want that to go unrecognized. So there's a laundry list of things. You specifically asked about what we did for our families, and so we added happy lights. We bought happy lights for our families because to Colonel Lange's point, folks are like, what do you mean the sun doesn't shine for 12 hours a day? I need some sunshine. So we have that available through our Army Community Service. We purchased tour buses that can take our soldiers and families on MWR trips out and about. We partnered with Explore Fairbanks and redesigned our newcomers, and that has been huge in immediately integrating our soldiers and family members into the local community. You all here in Fairbanks have absolutely embraced that, and we are blown away by the level of commitment to that newcomers redesign. We just finished over $17 million new Birch Hill project out at our ski hill. That facility is absolutely gorgeous, and it will open for winter operations this winter. That will be a year-round facility now. We improved our curriculum within our Child, Youth, and School Services program. We invested more money in our STEM programs. We redid our bowling center. The laundry list goes on, and I know I can go through them all. Next year, we're breaking ground on a large child development center, a brand new community activity center. And that's just the things we're doing for our families. There's so many more things that we have done and accomplished on behalf of our soldiers as well. And it's really been because of the team here and the partnership with the community. And so Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know there are a lot more details. I've asked them to kind of rush through it because we have had some of these conversations with our Military Affairs Committee as well. So I know there's a lot more behind all of those pieces that she mentioned. So now we'll go to Major Amanda Henry, commander of the 354th Force Support Squadron from Eielson Air Force Base. So this is kind of a broad question, I guess, but where do you see the biggest opportunities for the community to support our local military service members and their families? I think particularly from the Eielson perspective of, being a little bit further away from town.
Sure, thanks, Jinnel. So like the Colonel said, we are very fortunate that we do have such a good relationship with the local community, and we saw a lot of that showcased last weekend at the air show in particular. We had a lot of local folks come out and help us showcase some American air power, and that was really great, and there are a lot of opportunities to continue those kind of relationships. So if you are a small business owner or you've got a product or service in the local area that you think that our service members could take advantage of, we have a fabulous marketing department at Eielson. Wendy, raise your hand over there. That's my marketing director. And if you would like to get the word out to our service members about the things that you can provide, I would encourage you to work with Wendy and see what kind of in-kind or commercial sponsorship agreements you guys could come up with. And then that would just allow the service members to patronize some of the local facilities. The other thing that I would encourage, which has already been mentioned a couple times, is to funnel your job seekers towards Eielson. Child and youth in particular is my #1 priority right now. I have a child development center that can house more than 200 children, and I have 73 kids in there because that's all of the staffing that I can provide. So eventually there's mission impact there. If we have service members who are worried about who's going to care for their children, and it's also an impediment to spouse employment if we can't get those spouses out into the borough to work at some of those other jobs. So that's a consideration. If we could also support the infrastructure for employees, some of those electric buses that we saw a couple slides ago, if we could get some of those running between Eielson and downtown Fairbanks, that would be a dream come true. Aside from just the child and youth, there are other opportunities on base. I'm sure many of you are familiar with USA Jobs, and that's the best way to see what those vacancies are going to be. And then I'm taking it as kind of a personal challenge to work with UAF and see what opportunities we can provide those graduates that don't want to go too far from home or are looking for something in the local area. I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Wow, making up time. So I did decide to add just a lightning round. If you want to, each of you, I'll give you 30 seconds. What do you wish someone had told you before you moved here?
I will tell you that we wanted to come here. For our Army civilians, we raise our hand, kind of like some our soldiers may or may not raise their hand, but we raise our hand. We choose to live here. And so my husband and I made a conscious choice to come here to Alaska. And we had heard so many amazing things. We've never heard anything negative. And so we're all in. So I don't know if I had any additional questions. I'm still looking. I think I mentioned this 2 years ago when I was on a panel about snagging, and I haven't gone halibut fishing, so I'm still looking for someone to take me.
Get your fishing buddies lined up. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, just going back to the story about the truck, I wish someone had told me how to get cold weather wiper fluid before I came here.
Yes.
That was an interesting endeavor when I did finally pick up my truck and I had the Hawaii-based fluid in there. Sponsorship is huge, and so unfortunately for me, I didn't have a sponsor to come to Alaska. I was pretty much self-contained. I learned a lot of hard lessons up front, but Sophie Marcinkowski, who works in the Eielson marketing department, is over there. Her dad quickly took me under his wing. He was a civilian at Fort Wainwright, and he saved me from a lot of heartache with the things that I needed to know that I was getting ready to go down the wrong road on. So sponsorship in general for privates all the way up to colonels is huge.
Checking expiration dates. So there's some unique considerations that come with being kind of at the end of some supply chains. There were some things that I knew we wouldn't be able to find, but that was one that wish I had been told maybe before coming here.
I had a really good sponsor that gave me lots of great advice. I wish I'd listened.
That's a key component. I also heard from the front row, get your internet, get good internet. Okay, well, thank you so much to this panel. And Tammy's going to come back, and we're going to just chat for a minute about kind of what we heard here while we switch over to our next group of panelists. So, Tammy, if I can have you give your insights, and we'll have, thank you so much, panel.